Have you ever cried for someone you never met? I have, and I know I'm not alone. For me, one moment stands out. It was the 15th of September, 2022, and I was watching the BBC when they suddenly announced Queen Elizabeth had died. And even though I'm Irish, and I don't support the institution of monarchy in any country, I felt a quiet sadness. She wasn't my queen, but she was someone's mother, grandmother, and she was a constant presence to many of my friends, cousins, and many other people's lives. She represented 70 years of service, and when she passed, a chapter in the world's story quietly closed. It surprised me how deeply it hit me, and it got me thinking, why do we grieve people we've never even met? For me, the answer became clear. It's not just the person we cry for, it's the values they stood for. It's how their courage changed the system to make our lives a little better. Their lives shift our perspective, help change our behaviour, make us stand up for justice, and simply remind us what's possible. And sometimes they mentor us without ever knowing our names. And that's what Vicky Phelan did for me. Now, sometimes we tend to think of mentors as people we meet in person. A coach, a teacher, a wise elder who gives us guidance. But mentors can also be found in books, in stories, in the courageous acts of people who refuse to be silent. Vicky Phelan was one of those people. But before I talk about her, I want to take a small step back, because legacy, courage, and standing up for what matters, these aren't abstract ideas for me. They're personal. They're urgent. They live in the questions I've been asking myself for years. There's one book that planted these questions in me more deeply than any other. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's one of the few self-development books that truly sticks. And habit number 2 has stayed with me for over a decade. He says, begin with the end in mind. Covey invites readers to imagine their own funeral, not in a dark or morbid way, but as a lens. What would people say about you? What would you hope they say? Did you love fully? Did you show up? Did you contribute to something bigger than yourself? Did you help make the world better than you found it? These are legacy questions, and they've shaped how I see the world. Because here's the thing, we all know we're going to die, but very few of us live like we'll be remembered. That's why Vicky's story hit me so hard. She wasn't famous, she didn't seek the spotlight, she was just living her life, like most of us, trusting the systems around her. In 2011, she went in for a routine cervical smear test. The results came back as normal. Years passed, and she was living a normal everyday life. But behind the scenes, the truth was hiding in plain sight. During a routine audit, doctors discovered that Vicky's test had in fact shown abnormalities. But no one told her. The information was buried by doctors in case they got sued. Had she been informed, she could have taken action and perhaps avoided a terminal diagnosis. But she wasn't told. Not for 6 years. In 2017, she was sitting in a doctor's office, reading through her medical notes when she discovered the truth. She was already living with terminal cancer, and it was too late. That's the kind of betrayal that breaks people. The Irish health system failed her. But Vicky? She stood up. She didn't just demand answers for herself, she demanded them for every woman failed by that system. She exposed a national health scandal that had quietly destroyed hundreds of lives. Women, mothers, sisters, daughters, were walking around with false negatives, trusting that they were safe when they weren't. And the worst part? The health service knew. But instead of disclosing the truth, they chose silence. And silence, in this case, was fatal. Vicky's fight wasn't just personal, it was principle. She became a public voice, not because she wanted fame, but because she couldn't look away. She couldn't stand by while others were left in the dark. She didn't take bribe money to be silent. She called for a full investigation into the cervical check scandal. And even though she was dying, she campaigned for legislation to make open disclosure mandatory, so that doctors, hospitals, entire systems would be required to speak the truth, even when it's hard. Her voice carried a country. Her courage changed policies. And her legacy? It's still saving lives. Vicky Phelan died on the 14th of November, 2022. But she didn't leave quietly. She left transforming systems behind her. People like Vicky, they teach us what real leadership looks like. It's not about power. It's not about perfection. It's about standing up when it matters most. And I think that's why we cry for strangers sometimes. Because deep down we recognize that they've lived in alignment with something bigger than themselves, their values, their purpose, their love for justice. When I think about the people I've mourned without meeting, like Princess Diana, Nelson Mandela, even Sinead O'Connor, it's always the same story. People who refused to conform, who told the truth, who challenged injustice. And it makes me wonder, how can we do the same? If you've ever witnessed the misuse of power, if you've ever felt silenced or dismissed, then you already know how it feels to want change. But wanting change isn't enough. It's the action that counts. Rosa Parks sat down. Greta Thunberg went on strike from school. Billie Holiday sang through surveillance. Malala took a bullet and still chose education. People tried to silence every single one of them. And yet the world remembers their voices. Being a changemaker doesn't mean leading a movement. Sometimes it means making one good decision in a broken system, saying one true thing in a room full of silence, refusing to let power go unchecked. I often think of legacy as a chain. Each person who dares to speak truth becomes a link in that chain. We are not responsible for finishing the work, but we are responsible for adding our voice, our story, our strength. Vicky Phelan became a link, and she passed it on. The question now is, will we pick it up? Will we listen to the people crying out for change in hospitals, classrooms, courtrooms, refugee camps, or on the streets? Will we educate ourselves, listen to different voices, take aligned action? Will we have the courage to live by our values, not just talk about them? If you've ever felt small or unheard, I want you to remember Vicky. She was an ordinary woman who chose to speak, and in doing so, she changed Ireland. You never know who's learning from you, you never know who's watching, silently mentored by your choices. So speak up, live fully, and don't wait to begin your legacy. It starts now with the choices you make today. Thank you for listening. And if this message moved you, I invite you to keep the conversation going. Share this episode with someone who needs it. And if you want to dive deeper, check out the book you never knew you needed, to 15 Principles to Master the Art of Living by me, Duggan. Until next time, keep banging your drum, because your voice might be the one that makes all the difference.